Welcome, everybody, to this week's Boaty Show. We're going to start out with a moment of silence in recognition of the Francis Scott Key Bridge tragedy that happened and be respectful of the human cost of that accident, both in harm to the poor individuals who were driving on the bridge, who lost their lives, their families, and friends who are without them now. Take a deep breath and reflect. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. This is going to be a fun Boaty show. All right, Stephanie, I have a surprise for you. All right, are you ready?
I am. I think I'm ready.
It's time. It's time. It's time for the Boaty show. It's time. It's time. It's time for the Boaty show. Yo ho ho. It's time for the Boaty show. It's time. It's time. It's time for the Boaty show. Yo ho ho. It's time. It's time. It's time for the Boaty show. Yo ho ho. It's time for the Boaty show. Yo ho ho. Yo ho ho.
Oh my god! What just happened? Did we finally get Jay Nash to write some dance music?
Missy, go ahead.
Can I say something? I just want everybody to know how much fun it just was right now while I'm sitting here watching Steph react to the new Boaty Show music was delightful.
What was she doing? What was her face?
Well, first she was a little confused. She was like, "What's this?" Okay. And then as soon as the beat dropped, she was like doing her little seat dance. And then she was just smiley, all smiley. Thank you, Jay, for bringing that joy
to Stephanie. Jay Nash is remixing house dance music for the Boaty Show theme. That is version 1.
It's the best thing I've ever heard in my entire life. But I feel like I say that every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seriously is the best. Like, I'm going to get down to that all summer long.
Jay, and that's version 1. He and I started joking about this because he's actually touring in the Netherlands. He's touring the Netherlands in May, and we're going to have his friend as a guest. His friend lives on a canal in the Netherlands and has a boat, and they go cruising around. And we were joking about Euro this and Euro that and house music. And I think I probably said like a remix is going to be amazing. And so he's started working on it. And he has been asking me, is it ready to surprise Steph with yet or not? And he sent me this last version and I was like, yep, she's going to love it. And you did. You were like, you looked so confused and happy at the same time. So
there's a lot of things that I could have imagined the next iteration. Like, I mean, and I should tell everybody that I'm like, I think I called you out on being breadcrumbed with the intro and the outro by you because like you haven't sent me any of this. Like, I don't get to hear any of the music unless the show is actually happening, which is like kind of weird. And but also, I guess it is fun. But it makes for an interesting beginning. And this is not something I would have expected from Jay.
No, Jay is a very talented singer-songwriter. This may be his first ever house mix of his own music.
I've got to think it is.
Yeah.
But God willing, it's not the last.
I guess I'm glad to hear that you're okay with surprising you because it thoroughly amuses me. So it's going to keep happening.
and me, as I already stated.
Yeah, and Melissa as well. We're joined by my lovely wife, Melissa, sweet Melissa. My sister had a boat named after her, the Amy B, and you had a boat named after you, the sweet Melissa.
I have a good story about that if I can share.
Yeah, go.
They were getting that boat. It was hot. They were naming it. And we were all throwing names into a hat. And I at one point just offhandedly said, Sweet Melissa. And your mom was like, oh, yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, it was my mom who named it?
I think so.
Okay, good.
I think. I don't know. She's probably going to correct me later.
Yeah.
But I suggested it. They took the name.
That boat was a Rossiter 17. Rossiter is the boat manufacturer. They're Canadian. And it was a 17-foot boat. It was a dark blue hull. Maybe a black hull with a white deck.
It was dark. I don't remember whether it was blue or black.
It had a windshield, a couple of seats.
It was pretty.
You remember that boat, Steph?
Oh, yeah. I think I did a couple take back the boats with your mom in that boat.
Yeah, that's right.
On flat water, there's nothing better than that thing. It had a 115, which was way, way big for it. In rough water, it was short and light and poundy. Not as bad as a whaler, but
Not very enjoyable. Not very enjoyable.
Not very enjoyable. And that's why they got rid of it, because they could only take it out in flat water. But they bought that thing. They went into Clayton Marina, and it was like the showroom boat that they probably didn't expect anybody to buy. And Rossiter was a relatively new manufacturer, at least new to the area. So they put this thing out there as just bait, and they caught Phil and Kate. It was Phil and Kate bait. Steph, are you bored?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What did you just make yourself?
I'm making myself what I've decided to call a Total Eclipse Mimosa. It's got Sunny D vodka seltzer and Lunetta Prosecco. So far it is the wrong color, but it tastes delicious. And it's probably a terrible idea. But I have to try something out for the eclipse, get ready.
You're inventing this cocktail right now?
Mm-hmm.
What is why Total Eclipse?
Well, it's got the Sunny D for sun.
Okay.
Netto, which is lunar. It's got a moon on it. That's the Prosecco. Got sun, we got moon.
Oh, that's actually brilliant.
Total eclipse because I will probably need blackout curtains and a nap afterwards.
Happy Easter. This is Easter Sunday.
Oh, happy Easter. Great day to be Jewish.
I will say that does look like a good drink, even though I would want a sip of that. I don't want to drink the whole thing.
It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be so far.
That's a good thing in life. We're sitting on our back porch. You're sitting in your living room. I feel like making the move from our front porch, which is enclosed, to the back porch, which is not, is a step toward the season, the boating season. So that's good. You got out on one of your boats today or yesterday. Will you tell us about that?
Oh, last night I actually wanted to take sort of an atmospheric shot of the ingredients for my mimosa. So I climbed up on the houseboat, and it was nice and cozy in there, even though we're still in the 40s here at the river right now, but it was sunny, and it kind of heats up nicely in there. It was very nice to be on the houseboat, even though it is in the driveway. I was on my boat in the driveway and excited about it, but it was nice. And also, anybody who's tracking the battery saga, as I would mention that I did see lights when I turned the boat on yesterday, so that was interesting. I don't know what it means. There's hope.
Yeah, there is hope. So you've got there's a whole solar array on the roof of this houseboat that charges the batteries, and it was very well installed by our friend Eric and his nephew, who at the time was in his early teens.
Yeah, still is. Yeah, I think he's probably 15 now. He's a young kid with just a penchant and sort of a passion specifically for marine electronics, and he's kind of really gifted at it.
Well, climb in on the houseboat to take pictures of your new cocktail recipe, which will. It's Sunny D vodka seltzer, Prosecco.
The name is Lunetto, so it's like a moon themed Prosecco.
That's pretty creative. That's really cool. Maybe that's the Boaty Show canned cocktail.
Maybe it is.
My Boaty activity this week, my daughter Toby and I took out a skiff on the Schuylkill River and tried to salvage a canoe that I had spotted on the shoreline during crew practice. Ooh. And we found it. It was up in these bushes, and flipped it over, and unfortunately one side it was caved in. So the fantasy of free canoe that had been carried there by a flood was just that. But we repositioned it next to a train track so that it would provide something new for the train engineers who go by to look at.
Good idea. You don't think it could have even been salvaged to become, say, a boat garden?
It was a perfect boat garden canoe, and I'll go back and get it if you want a boat garden canoe.
I do.
All right, I'll go get it. It's plastic, so it's not gonna rot away or anything like that. Only one side of it is caved in, so you could have a display quality side that you face towards something.
Tie it up at the dock, right? I'm just gonna tie it up and grow some celery in it. Will you share your boat garden hobby? Yeah, but I have to be honest. I haven't done any of this. That's not true. So I do have that little tiny garden on the front of the houseboat, right? I usually have a tiny garden, and I put in some stuff that can be used in Bloody Marys. Mostly, I think, honestly, for you, because I don't drink Bloody Marys, and neither does Mitch. You both want to like Bloody Marys, but you don't actually like Bloody Marys. Exactly. It seems ridiculous that the world has invented a morning cocktail that I don't like, and yet that's what's happened. So yeah, you on the front of the houseboat, you have some boxes that you grow herbs and whatnot in. Yeah, anything that could be kind of thrown into a Bloody Mary. So cherry tomatoes, celery, maybe some. Oh, didn't we do? I did lemon balm, because that seemed like a good idea. Years ago, remember we found that picture and somebody had taken like a canoe and planted it full of vegetables and just tied it up to their dock or alongside their boat,
Yeah.
which was, that's kind of what I'm thinking about with your caved-in canoe. That's what I want, a bigger garden.
All right, I'm going to salvage the caved-in canoe for this purpose. Toby and I are going to go back. We're going to get the thing. We'll drag it back to the boat ramp. You know what's great is like when we record this, you're on FaceTime on my iPad, and I just saw a text come through from my friend Aaron Messino, and he submitted a boat of the week. He did not grow up boating, nor did his wife. He moved to Columbia, South Carolina for a job. He's a professor in computer science. He's a big surfer, and so now he's inland. And so I have encouraged him to consider boating, and he started listening to the Boaty show, and now his wife is shopping for boats online, Flavia, and he just submitted a boat of the week. So I think we're finding a way to bring more people into this whole shebang. And I'm just very excited about that. I'm going to actually not going to be able to pull it up. It's going to be for next week, but that message came through, so we've got a convert. Thank you, Aaron.
Mission-driven work right there.
Mission-driven work, Boaty Mission. All right, we've got a new segment. Stephanie, would you introduce it? And we have a sponsor for this segment, actually.
Well, I mean, I feel just conceptually first, I feel like we've had like both of our favorite parts about doing this has been like the back and forth with some of our listeners. And so I think we decided to call this Rear Admiral for a day and bring on somebody who is showing so much love and content growth that they just needed to be a part of it.
We actually pre-recorded this segment, and Brian Danforth doesn't know that he is Rear Admiral for the day. He may be the Boaty Show Rear Admiral. The Boaty Show Rear Admiral. We have a Rear Admiral. Maybe he's that.
Yep.
He's the Boaty Show Rear Admiral. We have a vice president of fake advertising. We have a Rear Admiral, and then we also have the chief commodore of fake advertising, who is going to read the spot that is the official sponsor of Rear Admiral for the day.
Hello, Boaty Show fans. It's pre-boating season, and that means it's time to build your floaty empires. Unfortunately, floaties don't come ready to enjoy. You still have to inflate them. Ugh, what a drag. It's always so hard. All you want to do is enjoy your floaty bliss, and your amazing new floaty is still flat and useless. Fret no more. Easy Blow Hero to the rescue. This magical device is a no-nonsense solution to your inflation woes. Easy Blow Hero is battery operated and portable too, so you can just throw it in your boat bag. For extra floaty confidence, buy several Easy Blow Heroes and keep one in all your boats. Never again get red-faced and out of breath trying to manually blow up your favorite floaties. Enjoy instant popularity when you save your friends from the dreaded blow-up blues with Easy Blow Hero. Try Easy Blow Hero today and enjoy floaty heaven without all the fuss.
And now, everybody, Brian Danforth, Rear Admiral for a day, sponsored by Easy Blow Hero. Stephanie, you want to introduce?
I would love to. I would love to introduce our friend, our listener, and last week's Boat of the Week winner, Mr. Brian Danforth. Welcome.
Wow, that's a wonderful, warm applause. I appreciate it. Great to be here.
Brian, tell us where you are right now.
Right now, I'm on the southern tip of Hutchinson Island in Stuart, Florida, walking my dog on the beach.
Aww.
Awesome. Why does Stuart, Florida sound familiar to me?
Stuart, Florida is probably one of the boat building capitals of the Southeast. So you got the Carolinas, which are known for their hulls like the Albemarle and the Regulators. But Stuart has got a lot of great custom boat building.
Is Stuart where Cigarette started?
Great question. I don't know.
We have to follow up on that one. Should we explain why we were having Brian on this week?
Brian, you could explain why. Why are you on? Why are we talking to you, Brian?
First of all, not only am I a huge Boaty Show fan, I do love boats. All things about boats, all things about the Boaty lifestyle. And last week, I was in a marina and came across the Calidor, custom-built catamaran houseboat, 61 feet. It looked like a floating Winnebago. Lines weren't exactly beautiful, but it is the ultimate party machine. So I figured it was a great contender for this.
It was, and you make a good point. Like the lines don't completely work. What do you mean by that?
It looks like a bus. It's like an airstream plopped onto a pontoon boat. Um,
That's so
and
cute.
I, so I Googled it and I was like, I gotta get behind this.
Yeah.
How did this boat come to be? Stewart Catamaran Boat Company, custom built, one of one. Designed for shallow water travel through the flats of like the Inland Waterway, the St. Lucie River, maybe the Bahamas if you're brave enough to cross the Gulf Stream in that thing, which I wouldn't. But it just looked like an awesome drive.
Yeah. Do you ever see it out and about cruising around?
No, I haven't seen anybody out on it yet. Currently, my boat's tied up next to it. So I walk by there every day. Don't tell anybody that.
I want to also ask, like you said, Stuart is, are you, interesting, are you like washing your hands right now?
Oh, sorry, washing my sand off my dog.
Oh, awesome. That's a great sound. So listeners, that's what washing sand off a dog sounds like. Something new every day. So you said Stuart is a huge boat building center, and that Stuart Catamaran built that thing. Do you know what the Stuart Boatyard looks like? Is it something accessible? What's that scene?
It's awesome. There's boat building all over the place. There's all these little boat builders all up and down the St. Lucie River inlet system. And so it's not just one boat builder, it's many. Hinckley's got a boatyard down here. And like everything in Florida, there's marinas everywhere. And there's also a lot of great boat builders.
Yeah.
Doing kind of small custom built, ranging from center consoles to flatboats to all sorts of stuff.
Got it. So these are not the big production thousands of copies boat builders. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of those around. And I do think at one point, and I'm not an expert on this, there may have been some production factories for companies like Pursuit somewhere in the area. But yeah, what I'm referring to is more of those custom built.
Let's go back to your boat. You said that allegedly you walk by the you walk by the Calidor on your way to your boat, theoretically, every day.
Yeah.
So what do you have and how do you use it?
Oh, great question. So I have a 1994, so she's technically 30 years old now.
Beauty.
It's a regulator. This is made in North Carolina. Originally, they made a center console, the 26, which is probably one of the most popular center consoles ever made. And then the mid-90s, they decided that they were going to make an express version, which has a little bit of a cabin, like a cuddy, full windshield, and a cockpit, almost like a mini offshore fishing boat. And they did this for about 4 or 5 years. They made about 20 of them, and I have one of those.
That's cool. So for our listeners, more and more I hear from are not necessarily boaty people, but enjoy listening to this nonsense. And sometimes they learn something. But a center console is kind of what it sounds like. The console is another word for the place on a boat that you bolt the steering wheel and the throttle, which is a lever that you push and pull. A center console allows you to walk all around the steering wheel. And then an express is like, okay, there's two places to sit down behind a windshield, and sometimes there's a cabin in front of the windshield, like up toward the front of the boat. Sometimes that's open, and that's called a bow rider. So you're talking about a regulator express that's one of 20 from 1994. That sounds sweet. Does it have an outboard motor or an inboard motor?
It's got twin outboards on a bracket, so it's got a full transom in the back. And then there's an aluminum bracket off of that, which the two engines sit on. And I have two 200 horsepower Yamahas. So they call them the inline fours. So they're the 4-cylinder, small, light, efficient. So good for these older boats that weren't designed when heavier 4-stroke engines came out.
So the full transom's a big deal if you're going to go out in waves, right?
Yeah, and fish. It gives you that full cockpit so you can fish around. The engines sit a little bit lower, further back. So you can kind of fish the whole back of the boat without worrying about stepping overboard or getting wet.
Yeah. What do you fish for?
Yesterday we went out and we caught a sailfish.
What?
Ooh.
Yeah. We went out about 10 miles offshore to Push Button Hill, caught a nice sailfish.
Can we get a picture?
And yeah, I'll send you guys a picture afterwards.
Great.
My brother Blake holding it.
Great.
My brother Hayes, I couldn't get him out of bed. Yeah, he's got 5 kids, so we let him sleep when he gets a chance.
Fair enough. That's amazing. One of the reasons that we needed to have Brian on was because we heard from so many listeners about their enthusiasm about the boat of the week, the Calidor, which I share completely, as people may have remembered from last week. No one's ever been on it, Brian, right?
Not yet. It's one of my goals.
Okay.
Before I migrate north spring summer season,
Yeah.
I'm going to get a tour of the Calidor, one way or another.
Is it for sale?
I did find a listing when it was for sale, but it's not for sale at the moment. And just to go back to the center console thing for a second, down here in the warm weather, there's a lot of center consoles that are used by fishermen. They can walk all around the boat. But the express style, where you're behind the windshield, is great for maybe colder climates, like the Thousand Islands, Great Lakes, or the Northeast. And so it's great to have those in that weather. Which also, I think, leads us to another topic, which you guys brought up, which were down east boats, which could be one of the ultimate expresses of expresses. Even though they're not express, they're actually the opposite. They're slow.
You're right. Like this, and this is what I had mentioned to Jeff the other day, was that in addition to bringing some heat to the boat of the week, that you got your family. Tell us about your family boat, because this is my first ever down east experience with seeing your boat at the river.
So probably in the early 1980s, my dad went to Al Grover's Marina in Freeport, New York, which is on Long Island, and he bought a 26-foot Grover built, and it was a skiff-like down east style lines. And he was so excited about this. I think at the time, if I remember correctly, he was also looking at the 40ers, which is a very well-known 26 kind of down east style. They're very popular in the Northeast. Anyway, he ended up buying a Grover built, and he drove it from Long Island up through the Hudson River, up the Erie Canal, into Lake Oneida, into Lake Ontario, to the Thousand Islands by himself, as part of a midlife crisis, I think. He disappeared for a while.
My man, good for him. Could you tell us more about the Grover and this Grover built thing? It's like a scene, a subculture.
Oh yeah. So Al Grover, who may or may not be alive, I think he's like 94, 95 if he's still alive, was a great self-promoter of his boats and his brand, but he basically built this boat. And one of the marketing stunts they did, maybe it wasn't a stunt, maybe it was a passion, probably was a passion. He wanted to run it across the Atlantic Ocean. And so at the time, he was also an Evinrude dealer. So he told his Evinrude rep his plans to drive this. And by the way, for those of you who have never seen a Grover built, it's a wooden, trimmed out fiberglass lobster looking boat with a small diesel engine in it. That the idea is that it sips fuel, goes slow, it's efficient, but can kind of go through any weather. So he's telling his Evinrude rep about this idea. And the Evinrude rep says, well, why don't you put two outboards on the back of it, and we'll pay for it. We'll give you parts, and we'll provide the engines, and we'll help you with the logistics. And so he basically mounted two 65 horsepower, 3-cylinder, didn't know such a thing existed, outboard engines on the back of this lobster boat to drive it from Long Island across the Atlantic. And he made it.
That's
Amazing.
so cool. Yeah. And that like popped, and the Grover built was a big deal to people. And that story persists to today. So your Grover was new built and delivered by your dad from Long Island to the Thousand Islands, which is a really cool trip to do through New York Harbor, like down the coast of Long Island and then into New York Harbor, up the Hudson. The Hudson Valley by water is gorgeous. Like you don't have to get too far past New York City for it to be kind of bucolic, like hills and trees everywhere. And then the Erie Canal from just north of Albany and Troy starts at Waterford, New York, which is a cool little town. And you cruise the canalized Mohawk River, I think to Little Falls, Lock 17, and then you get lifted real high up into where it looks like a canal into a ditch. And then you mentioned Oneida Lake, which is it's about a 12 or 14 mile long lake near Syracuse, New York, just north of Syracuse. If any listeners have ever driven on 81, Interstate 81, you basically cross over the west end of Oneida Lake. What was it? Then he took the Oswego Canal from basically there up to Oswego, New York, and Lake Ontario, and then he crossed the lake. Did he have any stories about crossing the lake in the Grover?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so he actually timed it right, where he ran along the lake up into the river, down the St. Lawrence, the Thousand Islands. But I do have a good lake story for you about this boat.
Yeah.
It includes some other river rat characters, such as Tim Purcell. I think Bob Beadle may have been part of the crew, and my older brother, Blake Danforth. And they got on the Grover built in the Thousand Islands, drove it out into Lake Ontario to go lake trout fishing. In the summer, they're deep water, so you use these downriggers and drop baits down, you catch them. And they tucked behind the islands in Lake Ontario on that eastern edge, which, if you've ever been there, it's pretty exposed. It's like an open ocean. And they grilled their fish up on the shore on the back deck or something, and they slept in the boat. And in the middle of the night, Lake Ontario kicked up something fierce. And this was before cell phones, so they probably weren't even looking at the weather. And they had to ride out 8-foot seas to get out of Lake Ontario back into the St. Lawrence River in this 26-foot Grover built. They would drop into the trough of the waves and they would lose the horizon. They couldn't see Sackett's Harbor and the other towns in the lake. They were so buried in these waves, but they got back.
That is bananas. And so wave height is measured from the midpoint of the wave to the top, not from the trough of the wave to the top. And so when you say 8-foot waves, it's actually like 16 feet from the trough to the top of the wave. And so that's why you would lose the horizon in that thing. And
Yeah.
Lake Ontario is sort of it's an oval that runs from west to east. And the typical prevailing wind comes from, roughly the southwest and blows to the northeast. So they might have been going like into the waves, but also kind of across the waves to get from those islands to, like Grenadier, I think is one that's out there to the mouth of the river. And I've been in a Grover built on the St. Lawrence, actually, the only place I've ever been in one, and we could talk about that in a sec. But it's a round bilged hull, which means you can have a sharp edge in the water. That's called a hard chine. That gives you a lot of initial stability. Like that sharp edge doesn't want to sink down. Or you could have a round edge in the water, which has less initial stability, so the boat can roll more, but it also helps the boat ride out a bunch of slop that comes at it. So Grover builts can be pretty rolly. So like that sounds like a wild ride.
Yeah, very rolly in their own conditions, being the sea, but they were surfing. It surfs well. A lot of down east boats, like that hard chine versus that soft chine, don't surf well, and so a lot of people own the down east always gauge their hull by how well it surfs down sea. And this one seems to surf pretty well, based on what I heard from that trip. They did a lot of surfing.
That's wild. Does your regulator surf?
Yeah, it surfs great. I mean, it's a deep V hull, so 24-degree dead rise, and it just gets and goes. So it handles the sea pretty well.
Yeah.
We were surfing. I think we had a 7-foot swell yesterday, and we were surfing on the way home, and it was like racing downhill. It was so much fun.
Sounds nice.
Stephanie, have you ever been in a boat that picked up a wave and surfed?
Yes, definitely.
Tell us about that experience and why you're laughing like that.
Maybe in our last episode, we talked about
Dumbest
heroic moments.
moments.
Coming home from the head of Grindstone, I was like, I've surfed in most of my boats. I feel like just mostly trying to get home from the head of Grindstone. Like that's exactly,
It's a wild feeling. Brian, would you describe to us what it feels like when you're motoring along and then you pick up that wave and start to surf? Like, what's the sensation like?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And what I find is that all waves are different speeds. So yesterday in the open ocean, what you don't realize about a wave is how fast it's moving. So to give you an example, we were probably cruising at 30 miles an hour, and we were barely keeping up with the speed of the wave. Mm-hmm. So if you think about that wave is traveling through the ocean at 30 miles an hour. So if your speed is matching it, it's like you're a constant downhill slide. And what's scary is when you're in a slow boat, again, down east style or lobster boat style, and the wave is faster than the boat, all of a sudden it starts picking you up and accelerating and pushing you down the wave. And you start to feel like there's a moment where you might lose control. And what happens when you're surfing, whether it be a surfboard, a kayak, a boat, is when it catches the back of the boat and it's going faster than you, and it wants to turn or spin the boat out to where you're going sideways. And that's really scary. So, depending on the size of the wave, it can be fun and it can be exhilarating to see the boat accelerate on the natural gravity of the wave, or it can be really frightening.
I love surfing in my Seaway, actually. I love that feeling too. And I think that was a really good description. I do feel like there are times where you're going a little faster than the waves too, right? And that can be crazy because it takes a lot of energy to get up on top of the wave, and then you kind of go flying off the top onto the next one.
It's almost like sledding.
Yeah.
Imagine if you sled downhill, then I got to climb back up that hill. And the engines are working hard to match that wave speed. Then you get to the top, and it's like a sled ride.
Hmm.
And there's something in our inner ear that likes that acceleration, which is why we have fun sledding and why we have fun surfing a boat or any of those things.
But I do feel like, we talked a few shows ago about the moment where, like, Jeff, your family and I got really interested in down east stuff. But I will always remember seeing Jolly Lobster, the Grover built that we're talking about, Brian's family boat. I'll never forget. I feel like I've seen it around. Your dad was an awesome guy. I've known him for most of my career, and it's kind of a legend on the river too. And that boat's definitely like a part of my iconic memory in a way that ticked up for me when we became more interested in the Down East Hull stuff. So I give you guys credit for opening that door on the river.
Yeah, that was all him, all Bill Danforth. And, you have a family of 5 living on an island 7-8 miles from the mainland. You have to share a couple boats to get to and from, to get groceries, to go pick up friends, to do whatever you need to do. And so that boat was our workhorse for hauling stuff, hauling people, hauling trash, getting everything on and off an island. And you could take it out in whatever weather you wanted. And at least the people driving or sitting in the front could stay dry. But the back was very wet. And
Yeah.
it's like a big open back, just soaking wet back deck.
Right. And it sounds like all you guys did was work in that boat, right? You didn't do anything like crazy or fun or anything like that.
Well, Steph, we've had fun a couple times on that boat.
Work.
That sounds like you were leading the witness, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So this boat has a small engine. It's got a small diesel engine. I don't know the exact horsepower, but I want to say like 120 horsepower or 150, which is not a lot for a big, heavy displacement hull up, but that's pushing heavy water. And then you throw in, 10 of your closest friends, maybe a couple kegs of beer, and all of a sudden it starts going real slow. And we've had a lot of good nights doing that. Occasional, maybe pulling over to take a break at the local channel marker, maybe do a little buoy rocking to cool off.
Buoy rocking? What is that?
Brian's playing buoy rocking now.
I don't understand.
Let's hear it.
I got this one. Okay. So first of all, disclaimer, this may break federal and local state laws. So I'm not condoning this behavior whatsoever, but there are channel markers on most navigable waterways, and some are larger than others. And I'm sure they have names. There's nautical terms for just about everything. But these would be not the largest of channel markers that you might see in open ocean, but these are pretty big ones. And you get one person on one side, another person on the other side, almost like a teeter-totter, and you start rocking it like a weeble wobble. And the more you rock it, the further it goes. And then you're hanging on for dear life while one side goes underwater, one person's underwater, then it flips back over, and you kind of try to hang on as long as you can. It's a great activity.
I think that it must be the wildest when you go from being underwater to being up in the air and swinging wildly back toward the water. I've never done it, and you may have never done it either. This is all allegedly, theoretically, right?
Yeah.
So
I've heard, there's stories about it.
Stories.
I don't think I've ever partaken in this.
Yeah.
And I think it usually happens at night when there's less authorities to arrest you for these types of activities.
Yeah.
So now you're at dark underwater, which is never a good idea.
These buoys, these channel markers, are built to have a really big weight down low, which sits probably 8 feet, 10 feet underwater. So there's a bunch of concrete or lead or something that's down underwater. And then above that, there's a big metal cylinder full of air, and that's the float. And then the top of that cylinder pokes up above the water by a few feet. And then on top of that is like a scaffolding, a superstructure. And on that, there's typically a number, that tells you what channel marker it is, 272, and a light that blinks in a specific pattern for that marker. So you can see the pattern of light blinking and know that that's, 272. They're different colors to tell you like which side of the channel they're on. So the channel marker is marking a channel, the safe depth for you to navigate. And on the St. Lawrence River, that channel is used by ships, and it needs to be 40 feet deep at least or something like that. And then out on the ocean, there'll be a big channel marker. Like outside New York Harbor, there are channel markers that mark the entrance to the channel. So like how you get into the channel from open ocean to the sort of runway that leads you into the harbor. Buoy rocking, I may have to do that like as part of my midlife crisis, which I'm in right now, and so I'm lining all kinds of good stuff up.
Yeah, just be careful where you do it. Thousand Islands has got the Great Lakes system's got they're good size. The ocean ones are a little big.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
from what I hear,
Alleged,
I love
allegedly.
like this rational, like they were getting advice on which buoys to rock. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephanie, have you ever buoy rocked?
I have not actually. No, it's still on my list. So I guess I'll just set up a crisis of some kind, and I will join you on a buoy this summer. Let's go. Let's go.
That's awesome. Oh, I have since it's rare that I get to talk to a fellow boat technicality enthusiast. You may have heard last week's show. There were discussions about skincare and brushing hair on the boat and that sort of thing, which I fully respect. Also, it's good to talk to somebody about motors and hulls and things like that, Brian. So thank you very much. But I wanted to ask a question. Does the Jolly Lobster have that Lehman diesel, the Ford Lehman 6-cylinder?
We have a Volvo Penta in there now.
Oh, okay.
That boat, I don't even know how many tens of thousands of hours are on it, but it's been in nonstop shuttle service since the early 1980s.
You describe it as slow. I would not characterize it that way because I've only seen it from afar, and it blasts along, throwing giant waves up and like splashes of water up into the air.
Yeah, that's a great description. It throws a lot of water, and if it's windy, that water gets blown back onto the boat. But yeah, the cruising speed is 15 miles an hour. Top speed, maybe 18.
Because it does not climb up on top of the water. It just cuts through it.
Yeah, and it is pushing a lot of water that, you see that spray, and with a little wind, that spray gets blown onto you. But the beautiful thing about freshwater boating is that spray is a good little rinse off. It's not like salt water where the spray hits you and everybody wants to rinse off afterwards.
Yeah. So I'll tell a story about that you'll appreciate. So my son Walker and I, we took our 24-foot Eastern Down East style center console from Cape May, New Jersey to the Thousand Island. Cruised up the Intercoastal Waterway thinking we'd be, behind the barrier islands of the Jersey Shore in the sheltered area. But there was a 3-day north wind that blew, and we got into Great Egg Harbor, or not Great Egg Harbor, Great Egg Bay, and the north wind had fetched a nastiest chop I've ever been in, and it was salt water. And so my son Walker he was born in September. He'd floated inside his mama's belly all summer in the St. Lawrence, and he's a freshwater boy, freshwater baby. And so that first day of catching all kinds of saltwater spray, he didn't really compute. But then we stopped, and it all dried, and he was covered in salt. And the look on his face, he was like, "What is this? Oh my God, this is oh God!" And he couldn't wait to rinse off. And so when we finally made it, and then we continued up. We stayed on Long Beach Isle and Beach Haven, and then we ran out Little Egg Harbor and got in the lee of the barrier islands on the ocean side, and stayed like about 100 yards outside the breakers, maybe 200 outside the breakers, so we could be sheltered from this wind by these islands that run north-south. That was his first experience with like legit ocean roller surfing, because he'd only ever boated in short waves, which he called chop. You can't really surf those because there's no like face to it. It's just like this like spike of water that you like have to just go through or over. We were going over these monster long period rollers and surfing down the backside of those, and he got that experience. And then we stayed in Manasquan, and then we boated into New York Harbor and up the Hudson. He wanted to get to fresh water so badly so he could rinse off from the salt. It was really something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many great freshwater adventures. I was just thinking about one other story where my dad and my mom and my two brothers drove the Grover built from the Thousand Islands up into the Great Lakes, ultimately to pick me up at summer camp on Georgian Bay on Lake Huron. And they slept on the back deck and on islands along the way, and it took them a week. And if you look at the lock system that connects the St. Lawrence or maybe the Rideau Canal up into Lake Huron, it is an amazing network.
Yeah.
So I think there's a whole world of freshwater adventuring out there for the people who are into adventures.
Yeah, and you don't think about it. You like you think, oh, I've got a boat on the ocean or I've got a boat on the river, but the canal you're talking about, I believe it's the Trent Severn, which runs basically from like an island behind Lake Ontario through Western Ontario or southwestern Ontario, all the way over to Lake Huron and then Georgian Bay, which I've never been on, but I really want to take that trip. But you're right. Like if you are interested in boaty adventures and aren't up for like dealing with unpredictable weather and waves and stuff, rivers and canals are really, really sweet to cruise on. And you don't need a big boat to enjoy them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. You got the Great Loop, which, a lot of people know about, going out to St. Lawrence, out into the Atlantic, down along the Atlantic coast, up into the Mississippi, back up into the Great Lakes via Chicago, which is infamous and awesome. And a lot of people kind of plan that for their whole lives as a to-do thing. But you're right. There's so many great rivers and canal systems that are interconnected off of the Great Lakes and other places in the country that people can travel. And I have a couple of friends that have some larger down east style boats that they could sleep in, but they still choose to take one of their kids in a small center console on a summer night and just sleep on the deck.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
I have 2 kids that are in college. So they're 19 and 20.
I think one of the things I want to start doing is, I have a kid in college. My oldest is 20, my middle is 18, youngest is 16. I want to start sending them off on those adventures in the small boats.
Yeah, the Rideau Canal is probably one of the best ones near the Thousand Islands.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Another episode.
Another episode.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Brian, we really appreciate you joining us today. And for me, it's been great to have like a little bit of a boat bro time. And I've noticed that Stephanie's been like, hey, excuse me, like while you guys like have a love fest, can I chime in here?
Or I could just drink my mimosa. I'm good. I'm letting you guys carry it for right now. No, that was great though, Brian. It was good to chat with you, and thanks for all of your enthusiastic boaty support.
Yeah, just listeners, so Brian is sending some of the best questions ever and observations, and is really, really engaged. And so, Brian, we'd like to actually consider you to be one of our official correspondents or occasional co-hosts. Would that be okay?
Yeah, be happy to join whenever you guys want.
Awesome.
And by the way, I love the whole floaty ideas. I am new to the world of floating. And so when you guys are talking about getting floaties, I can't wait for you guys to get your merch up, because I'm going to buy some floaties. I need more floaties in my life.
Amen, amen.
You had a great merch suggestion, actually, if you wouldn't mind sharing what it was.
Yeah, so Steph, because one boat of the week said, I'll send you a sticker. I said, that's great. Maybe you guys should think about decals that people can put on the windshields of their boats. Because everyone's a little territorial about putting stickers on their boats, but something on the windshield would be great.
We are going to do that. And what would a good decal be for you? Because the Boaty Show sticker it's a die cut thick vinyl yellow and black Jimmy Jim, right? It's something that people are like, I see people now putting them on their water bottles, that kind of thing. So what would you want to put on your windshield? Yeah,
I mean, I think that the Boaty logo, maybe like in a clear with the tractor and the logo you guys have or something like that. Or another idea is maybe make a windshield sticker that's more triangular, like a burgee, that could kind of fit more in the corner of the windshield rather than being square, something that can kind of go with the lines of the windshield.
Ah, okay, cool.
Or how about this? You guys have a Boaty Show burgee, and people could fly that when they're doing their big raft ups.
Done. So done. So done. That's happening.
Next to the pirate flags, of course.
Right.
I also think we should do like informational boat cushions, like the ones that have like the different knots and stuff. I think we need Boaty Show informational boat cushions.
Like with the beavers on back order.
Yes, yeah.
Or our favorite drinks. So have like the ingredients of your favorite drink. Like each boat should really have a signature cocktail.
Yeah.
So when I step on a Steph's houseboat, I should know that she's got the best whatever it is. And when you step on Plan B, you'll know what you're getting.
Just so you know, I'll hint a bit. We recorded an out of band special episode with my good friend Mark, who is an amateur mixologist. The whole episode is about the signature Boaty Show cocktail recipe. I'll hint that may be released regular Wednesday. it's probably going to end up, once I edit it, it's probably going to end up just dropping as soon as I edit it because I'm so excited about it. So yeah, I think a cocktail recipe on a cushion. We've taken up a bunch of your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for sharing all your enthusiasm about the Boaty Show.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys in the water.
Have fun down there.
All right.
All right. See you guys. Take
Bye, man.
care.
You too.
Great job on the show.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye. And we're back. That was a really wonderful time with Brian. And I want to just say that Stephanie looked and acted bored because Brian and I were boat broing out. And I feel so happy that I have a Boaty brother from another mother in Brian. I was monopolizing the conversation, Stephanie. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right, man. It's good. It's all good. Like, I got to sort of sit back and listen to you guys talk about angles and shit or whatever you were. But it was great. Brian's a hero. His family's great. Nice boat. I'm into it.
Yeah. Nice boats. Lots of boats. Also, I want to share that our first swag went out to listeners. So Sweet Melissa mailed out Boaty Show stickers to all of the Boat of the Week winners, anybody who's participated in any way in the Boaty Show, and those few who remembered the promo code, which is what, Stephanie?
Beavers on back order.
Beavers on back order, and put the promo code and their address in a text or a Instagram direct message to me. So those stickers went out. Look for them. People should be coming in the mail this week. So that was kind of fun. And if anybody's interested in a sticker, find a new and different way to participate in the show, and you may get a sticker as well. Moving on. Boat of the Week, Stephanie.
Oh, I've been sort of dreading this a little bit.
Why?
Because there's too many good ones this week.
Boat of the Week's a happy thing. You shouldn't dread that.
I've got anxiety about choose. I don't know how to choose. They're all so good.
Okay.
Have you seen them? For Christ's sake, look at them.
Let's pull them up.
Okay.
This is from Patrick and Kimberly Murphy. It's a custom. Built in 2008 at Conrad Shipyard in Poland, the 58-foot Gentleman is a steel tugboat with traditional lines, plenty of teak exterior accents, and a warm mahogany interior. I'm not going to read all of the specs because you're already bored with that from Brian and I. Kimberly said, "This is our submission for the Boat of the Week for when we never do the Great Loop," which we heard a little bit about from Brian.
So well said.
Yeah. I'll describe it for listeners. So blue hull, long, kind of like tugboat looking lines. So the front of it is wide and tall. And then there's a really pretty round cartoon character windshield, a smokestack, which probably is just ornamental with some flags on it, and then a stripe, blue and white stripy picnic awning on the back. The exterior's got like all kinds of wood trim, all varnished and looking gorgeous. Hidden is a fly bridge. So on a boat, you can have an interior steering station and then an exterior one, which is typically up top, and that's called a fly bridge. And it's hidden. Like typically a fly bridge is like, oh, that's where like it looks like a big thing sort of stamped on top of a boat. This is just sort of like tucked in. So you've got like this cool chilling spot, and it's got a steering wheel on the left and the right-hand side, which is pretty wild.
I didn't notice that before.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm scrolling through the...
It's just, the thing is, like, I don't see how you beat this boat, because the thing you didn't say is it's so smoking hot.
Yeah. Oh, there's a picture of it from the sort of aft, the back left side. It's like got some tumble home to it, which we talked about on a previous episode.
I'm saying it again. I'm just repeating the word because
tumble
you know
home.
It is. So I'm just going to say it again. Tumble home. I don't see it, but I believe you. Why is it so amazing? I do see it now.
Give me some words. Give me some words that pop in your head when you see it.
I just can't deal with how hot it is. I just need it. I need this boat.
I see sweeping.
It's gorgeous. It's like, it actually reminds me a lot of either the Muskrat, like the houseboat. Like,
yeah.
It reminds me of that a little bit. And you're right. It's tugboaty, but it's so like sleek and it's like kind of fancy, but it's a combination of like worky and fancy. You know how we like work boats sometimes, and we're like, I mean, not really, fancy is not the right word. What's the word I'm looking for?
Well dressed.
It's just hot.
Yeah. Well dressed. And we talked about the Lancer having clean lines. This does that as well. There's a white stripe around the whole perimeter of it that just kind of like sets off the curves of the thing, because the white stripe follows the gentle curve of it.
Ridiculous.
And you're right that like references, design-wise, it references a tugboat, but it is not a tugboat.
Well, I don't know why we're bothering with any other boats.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I can't wait for people to see this when we share it. It's pretty sweet.
Is it for sale?
Every boat's for sale.
I want it.
Yeah.
Just say it's really nice.
Yeah.
I also loved your response to Kimberly when she said that they're not going to do the Great Loop. You were like, what did you say? That's not going to be a great trip.
Yeah, that's never going to be an amazing trip.
Awesome. I think I responded with like, we could just go around Wellesley. So we just need to make other loops that are maybe a little bit less daunting.
It doesn't have to be a great loop.
Yeah, could be a good loop.
A good loop. Let's do that. Let's do some good loops or some like okay loops.
Mediocre? Yeah, like mediocre loops. I can't wait. It's going to be a great summer.
The Great Loop is the crazy trip where you go like down the whole Mississippi, through the Gulf, up the Intercoastal Waterway, and across the Great Lakes, the headwaters of the Mississippi. That's what the Great Loop is. And we heard a little bit about that from Brian earlier. All right, next boat of the week from Matt Sullivan. So we have some boat of the week regulars. I'm excited that my friend Aaron and his wife submitted a boat of the week candidate because they're new to this. And you know what we haven't had yet? A listener we have no relationship with submit a boat of the week, and we would love that. That person would get 2 stickers.
Ooh, there you go.
Just for submitting. Like if you don't know us or any of the people involved in this, and you submit a boat of the week on Instagram or email, theboatyshow@gmail.com. If you're not on Instagram and we don't know you, the first person to do that gets, I don't know, as many stickers as you friggin' want. And you don't even have to win. You just have to submit. Okay. I'm just excited to connect with new people.
Okay.
Do you want to introduce the Matt Sullivan candidate?
Sure. Here's a sweet little ride. It's called the Tadpole. Tadpole is a custom 16-foot flats skiff designed for country music star Alan Jackson. Whoa. She was designed by Travis Hickman and built in 2002. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Just generally 5 feet 2 inches across, constructed of wood, rod holders. It's a fishing boat. It's got a little platformy thing, right?
Yeah, this is a flats boat.
70 horsepower outboard engine. It's very, very cute. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I friggin' love this thing.
Also have this one win.
This is a great, great boat. This is submitted by Matt, who, I'll out him. He submitted yet another friggin' whaler last week, and I didn't name him because I knew I was going to bag on it. I didn't want Matt to feel bad. But he submitted this because he gets that, the rest of the world's moved on from classic whalers, and so should he.
No.
Okay. This boat, I'm going to describe it a bit. This thing has serious tumble home. And
oh yeah,
listeners, if you listen to the tumble home explanation in a previous episode, Alligator Tumble Home, that was the name of it, and want to see an example of a bunch of tumble home in a short, compact boat, check this thing out on Instagram. The back of it curves up from the water, up and in from the water. That's completely non-functional, but for some reason, man, it always looks so good.
I like the metal rub rail too.
I do too. Yeah, and but
you're right. It is. It's that nice curvy situation.
Yeah,
it's curvy.
This thing's only 16 feet long. It looks like such a good time. It's a flats skiff. Alan Jackson actually does tons of boating, and he has a big yacht that comes through the Thousand Islands sometimes. But that yacht is getting transported up and down the East Coast. I think he's in Florida for at least part of the year. This flats boat, it's designed for quote unquote skinny water, which means just shallow. It's so you can get into coves and lagoons where there's not a lot of depth and fly fish often. That's what people do in shallow water from a flats boat.
So it has like a decky thing. No, what do you call that? Tower?
Yeah, so that tower on the back of it is so you can stand up really tall and see really far. This thing's made for bone fishing, which is
That's what I was going to say. But the bone fishing, that's what I was going to ask, is if it was for bone fishing.
What do you know about bone fishing?
Well, I mean, I have a son who's really into fly fishing, and so I just know that bone fishing is like whatever. It's like fly fishing, but you do it in the ocean and shallow water, and you can see the fish and blah blah blah. That's about it.
Yeah. So the platform is there. It's up above the motor. It's like an arch with a wooden platform on top, and you stand up there, and that way you can see the bonefish out further in the water when you're fly fishing. Because when you fly fish, it's all about you see the fish, and then you put the fly, the fake bait, on the end of a line in front of the fish. That's about all I know about fly fishing because I'm not into fishing.
But I also like that they took that wooden platform and put it even closer to the sun, so that it would, so that you would have to refinish it even sooner.
Yeah. That's the downside to pretty exterior wood, is that it gets beat by the sun and then you got to varnish it, which is the biggest downside to that Conrad built tugboat hottie that we just talked about, is it's got a lot of exterior wood.
It doesn't matter.
No?
No. I mean, there's a fantasy element to this boat of the week situation, which has been called on in the past, and I feel like it's time to call on that again.
All right.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to tell you, I don't have the dock for that, whatever that Conrad. I don't have a dock for it, but I'll find one.
Yeah, you will. You'll make friends fast who have docks.
Yes.
With that thing. All right, moving on from the tadpole. That was a pretty great submission.
Really nice.
Yeah, really nice, Matt. I'll introduce the next one from Nicole Listeman, our friend Nicole. It is a Boston whaler. So this is not one of the newer ones. This is a late model classic whaler. It looks like the 17-foot hull might be the 13 or no, this is the 15-foot hull. I'm sorry.
18-foot open bow Ventura. Does that sound right?
No.
Maybe that's the other one that she had next to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Ventura next to it. That's a new model, like new design. So post 1995. This is the pre 1995. Probably like a 93 or 94. It looks like a late model 15-footer with great seating. The 15-foot is not as awful to ride in because you sit pretty far back, and so all of the vertical acceleration, basically the bow flying up into the air and slamming back down, comes in front of you, and you sit back further. So it's not, these things aren't as bad to drive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different style of, it's a different way to boat. And I'm going to do, I have a role here on this maybe in this segment on this show, which is to counterbalance your whaler hatred with the fact that, there's just some joy. There's some joy that the whaler brings. Look at got Chase Listerman sitting in the boat, looks happy. His boat's not in the water, but it's about to be. I mean, that kid is going to have a great time in that boat.
Yeah, that's the upside to these. They are small, easily handled, and powered, and exciting for younger people. So I don't hate classic whalers. I am just dismissive of them, right? One thing I will say is that there aren't a lot of fun boats that don't need a lot of horsepower.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like in the last conversation we had was about whether or not it was okay to be, to have like this wistful sort of
nostalgia,
right? And I feel like I thought about it for a week, and I think it's really well placed. I think, at least, I'll speak just to my own experience, which is that's where I learned how to be an independent boater and arguably person, is like in that boat, and it was weatherproof, and it was a lot of fun. I love it. I love a good whaler. I love a good kid in a whaler. Makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk back a bit of my dismissal, because you're right. A kid in a whaler is a beautiful thing, and the nostalgia that you're talking about is from lots of big kids, grown-up kids, looking back at that independence that they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great part of my coming of age on the river and falling in love with this as a place to live. And someday I'll tell the story of how I moved back from California because of whalers, because it's a whole other story.
Oh, wow. That is a good story. All right. Some whaler love today. I will say that if you have kids and are not into boating or are new to boating, putting your kid at the wheel and stepping back a bit and like letting things happen is a great thing to do for them. I have been a bad boating parent where I've been like micromanaging and angry, and then I've evolved into a better boating parent where I just kind of let go, and my kids really benefited from that. And it's a place where you can be behind the wheel and have that independence without a lot of you're not going to run into anything right away. Well, we could. I think having some of our younger demographic liaisons on at some point in the future to talk about what being a very young boater meant to them would be good, and we could segue from that into your California whaler story.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, boat of the week from Julia, who both Nicole and Julia hashtag the Boaty Show on Instagram, which is how we found their submissions. Which I encourage everybody who's listening, if you're on Instagram, and I'm sorry that we're not on Facebook and stuff like that. We're working on that, but if you hashtag the Boaty Show and tag the Boaty Show, which is a dedicated Instagram page for the Boaty Show, hashtag and tag. That'll be helpful. Like we can see this stuff, and other people can too, because they can follow the hashtag. So Julia submitted what, Stephanie?
Well, I don't know. I think I might need you to translate here, but I'm very excited to see Julia and her entire sort of situation. I know we had a a content question from her a couple shows ago, but like, you know, Julia and Rich are like, they're a little bit, you know, gangster boater situation up in the Thousand Islands because they have the coolest houseboat on the river.
Yeah, the gangster in the like Cribs, MTV Cribs.
I don't know. I've never seen it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a show, Cribs, where like, you know, P. Diddy. Actually, we don't want to talk about that guy. Turns out he's a dirtbag. But like, let's call out Shakira. Okay, like Shakira would host MTV Cribs and do a walkthrough of her like amazing sweet house. And so when you say gangster, that's what I think of. I think of like, hey everybody, welcome to our houseboat that we designed and had custom built on a barge that we had designed custom built. This thing, oh my God.
It's amazing. It's the best boat ever. And I think it has its own dedicated, like you can go look up. What are they? Is it barge yacht? Is that what they call it?
Yeah. SL Barge, BARGE yacht on at SL Barge Yacht on Instagram. It also has a website because it's that significant.
Right. Because it's amazing. It's amazing. It's incredible. This is what I mean. How do we put these things against each other? It's too hard. She's also got a really sweet airboat, which we had some disparaging comments about airboats in the past on this show.
This one has a windshield and a roof, like a canvas roof.
Different level, and it's kind of hot looking. It's kind of a cool. It looks like a classic car, honestly.
Yeah. The houseboat is.
I love it so much.
The houseboat it's 2 levels. It has big roof overhangs out from the sides of the lower level. On the front of it, there's a glass garage door which rolls up, and then a big ramp which lowers down and creates a like 0 depth entry for you to get on and off the thing. The garage door rolls up. There's an indoor-outdoor bar that's very tastefully done. There's a staircase up to the second level, which is half master bedroom and half chillin' deck. And then on the third level, the top of the master bedroom is the only thing I can say is like the pinnacle of chillin' spots. It's, 2+ stories up, big wraparound seating, a little pergola roof on it. And it's a barge yacht. That's what Julia and Rich call it. They had this thing built by friends and family, and some commercial folks came in on it because they didn't want to have a cottage. They wanted to have a floating house, and that's what this is. It's really, really remarkable and so much fun. I've been on it a few times.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's functional. It's like, and it's creative because it's different from everything else. It's like, it's sort of, I don't know, like it's visionary, right? It's like, so they had vision and then they made it happen, and hats off all the way around. Yeah.
And if you see this thing and you love it, talk to them because they know how to get one built that's just like it or similar to it.
So I'm at this point, Jeff, because there's no way that we can decide between these things. So we need a creative answer.
All right. We have the Conrad Shipyard tug yacht. We have the 16-foot tadpole flat skiff. We have the 15-foot whaler, and then we'll call it the barge yacht with a sidecar of pretty sweet airboat.
So is there any way that we could get all of these boats onto Julia and Rich's houseboat? Because I feel like that's the only way they can all win. I
know you want everybody to win. I'm okay. You're okay.
Not usually, though. I'm usually decisive.
This is the second boat of the week in a row where you're like, can't they all win? Remember last week?
I wanted 2 of them to win, but this time I want all of them to win. I don't know why.
I'm leaning toward the tadpole skiff because I like little cool boats in general. I love the tug yacht because that was a one-off. Somebody had their design vision and made it happen, which is similar to what Julia and Rich did with the St. Lawrence barge yacht. Man,
Can we just raft them together and have them be one boat, and
No.
then they both?
we have to pick one and we have to have a rationale for it, or just a gut feel.
Okay, all right, fine.
Everybody, just so you know, what you just heard was only like maybe a third of the deliberation over which boat to pick, because I had to edit out all the other
Really
bits. Man, the Whaler's not going to get it. Sorry, up against all this other stuff. Nicole, thank you for submitting. It's beautiful. Probably one of the best preserved examples. Tadpole's pretty sweet, but Julia and Rich, I want to back you, but I can't today because I love what you did with the St. Lawrence barge yacht. I love how much it is about life on the water and floating and all of that. Wait, I've talked myself out of the tug yacht.
I know. I was just doing the same thing because we know how they use it. That's why.
Yeah.
Right? Like, parent their 2 children and like spend the entire summer on it, and like we know how much they use it. I just went the same place in my head. He's using the tugboat that way, but we know Julia and Rich are, which is compelling.
The tug yacht is actually, as gorgeous as it is still somewhat conventional in this sense. And if it were up against the other 2 boats, it would win. I'm going to pick the St. Lawrence barge yacht mostly because it is a combination of form and function, whereas I see the tug yacht as more form than function. And so this barge yacht, like, it's a platform for watery living. Right, Steph?
Right, Jeff.
You can haul your kayaks up on the ramp that lowers down.
Yeah. We're having a function moment. Yeah, it's about and it's a little bit unfair because who knows how many children have been raised on the other tugboat. I don't know, but we know how these guys use it, and I think we've both talked ourselves around to it. Like, it has to win.
Yeah, it has to win. The St. Lawrence barge yacht, everybody, is your boat of the week. That was quite a show.
That was like a real cliffhanger there, I gotta say. I mean, I'm stressed out just listening to us.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining, and we can't wait for it to get above 40 degrees, which it seems like it's going to be forever on the mid-Atlantic states.
Let's go.
All right.
Yo ho ho, that's it for the Boaty Show. Pack the cooler, grab the lines, let's go, go, go. Yo ho ho ho.
That's it for the Boaty Show.
Stay floaty. Bye.